In 2017, South Korea did something few nations have the stomach for. They dragged their sitting president, Park Geun-hye, out of office and threw her behind bars. Millions of citizens flooded the streets of Seoul, holding candles and demanding an end to political corruption. It looked like a total victory for the rule of law. But the man who actually funded that corruption, the architect who handed over the millions in bribes that brought the president down, was Lee Jae-yong, the heir to the Samsung empire. Initially, the courts treated him exactly like the politicians he bought. He was found guilty, handed a prison sentence, and locked away. Yet today, the disgraced president's political career is completely over, while Lee Jae-yong is walking free, fully pardoned, and running one of the most powerful tech companies on the planet. This is the reality of the Chaebol, the massive family-run conglomerates that dominate South Korea. For the average citizen, the justice system is strict and unyielding, but for the families at the top of these corporate empires, the law operates in a completely separate, invisible reality. This willingness to bypass the law extends far beyond South Korea. Take Samsung Heavy Industries, the division building massive offshore drilling rigs and container ships. Between 2007 and 2013, they wanted a lucrative contract with Petrobras, Brazil's state-owned oil company. To secure the deal, Samsung funneled $20 million through intermediaries to directly bribe Brazilian officials. The scheme eventually collapsed during a massive anti-corruption probe. Because the transactions involved a US-based entity, the American Department of Justice stepped in, forcing Samsung to admit guilt and pay a $75 million fine. That sense of total immunity even trickles down into their private lives. Back in Seoul, Lee Jae-yong was caught routinely taking propofol, a highly regulated hospital anesthetic, using it illegally at a private clinic as a luxury sleep aid. To a billionaire, a $63,000 fine for years of illegal drug use is a negligible line item on a monthly statement. Whether securing shipping contracts in Rio or booking illegal clinics in Seoul, the Lee family treats the legal code as a manageable business expense. The true test of this immunity came in 2014. Samsung's patriarch, Lee Kun-hee, suffered a severe heart attack. His son, Jae-young, needed to quickly lock down control over the company's tangled web of subsidiaries before his father passed away. He pushed a highly controversial merger between two major Samsung branches to artificially boost his personal shares and solidify absolute control. But there was a major roadblock. He needed approval from the National Pension Service, which held a crucial voting stake. Standard corporate lobbying wasn't enough. Instead, Samsung offered massive bribes to Choi Soon-sil, a private citizen who was the sitting president's closest confidant. The price for securing the Samsung empire was $7.8 million. The money was used to buy luxury horses and fund equestrian training in Germany for the confidant's daughter. The payout worked. The National Pension Service approved the deal, the merger passed, and Jae-yong won. To keep control, Samsung compromised the absolute center of South Korean political power. Their actions directly catalyzed the impeachment and collapse of their own government. When the equestrian bribery scheme was exposed, the consequences finally seemed to catch up with him. Jae-yong was convicted of embezzlement and perjury, and by early 2021, he was back in a prison cell. Then, in August 2022, the system simply bent to his will. The newly elected president of South Korea granted him a full, unconditional pardon. The official justification issued by the government was remarkably blunt. They stated the pardon was granted specifically in the interest of the national economy. This exposes a structural flaw in the rule of law. When a single corporation grows so large that it effectively props up the entire national economy, its leaders achieve absolute legal immunity. You cannot punish the CEO if you believe doing so will tank the country. This exact sequence of crime, minor punishment, and absolute forgiveness is a generational strategy. It happened previously with his father, Lee Kun-hee. In 2008, the older Lee was convicted of hiding roughly $100 million in secret employee accounts to dodge massive tax bills. Less than 2 years later, the president wiped his record clean with a special pardon. The state's reasoning was transparent. They claimed they needed the Samsung chairman out of prison so he could help secure the 2018 Winter Games. Once pardoned, Lee Kun-hee walked right back into his office and resumed total control of Samsung, as if the conviction was just a bad dream. The chaebols have integrated themselves so deeply into the state's survival that they now effectively operate outside its jurisdiction. When a single family's fortune becomes the country's economic baseline, the legal system loses its ability to enforce a conviction.